Hello everyone, the book I'm going to be presenting today is called Poor Carolina, Politics and Society in Colonial North Carolina. The author's name is Roger Eckert. He earned his undergraduate degree at Dartmouth College and is currently history professor at Virginia Tech. He is known for his research in American and European history as well as the history of sleep. Overall, he has published 6 books and written articles for the Huffington Post, New York Times, and the Wall Street Journal. He has also appeared on several radio and television shows discussing his research. In this book, Eckert seeks to explain North Carolina's social, political, and economic struggles during the 18th century. Eckert argues that the shift in becoming a royal colony in 1729 may have had a substantial impact on the political atmosphere. Also, during the 1720s, many colonies began expanding their territory. Eckert explains that this expansion era was North Carolina's opportunity to advance economically, and the failure to follow this movement contributed to the state's lack of political progress. Lastly, Eckert details each North Carolina official's term in the state. He describes the mistakes they made and the corruption they were involved in. He does this to reveal the weakness and the poor leadership over the North Carolina colony during this time period. To understand the book the best way, it is to look at the significant events and people during this time period. Eckert spends a large portion of his time on understanding the Lord Proprietors and the following governor's rules. As we learned in class, Great Britain established the proprietary colonies. North Carolina's first Lord Proprietor was named George Burrington. Eckert detailed Burrington's role and states that it endured many dilemmas and even ended in an attempted murder. He failed to confront the misfits in North Carolina who weren't following the rules, and he also failed to execute orders from the crown. Things didn't improve when the new governor, Gabriel Johnston, came in. Many property disputes became a significant issue in the politics of North Carolina. Eckert analyzes Burrington and Johnston's role and concludes that their incompetence and self-interest deprived them of executing the crown's instructions. Adding to the turmoil, office holders often use political institutions to benefit their interests. Furthermore, there were many ongoing disputes between regions, such as the North and South regions of North Carolina developed disagreements over representation rights and majority rule. More disputes and disarrayed politics occurred when the Lord Proprietors dissolved in 1740, and the Crown bought back the land. The only problem was that the current proprietor, John Carteret, refused to sell his land. He created his own district called the Granville District, which failed miserably due to the land corruption and lack of judicial system. More added to the significant events and people was the Regulators movement. By the mid-1760s, the North Carolina people were very, very frustrated and angry with the government. So a group of North Carolinians from the backcountry who opposed the royal government's tax and fee system decided to rebel against the government. Herman Husband and Josiah Martin were the main leaders of this movement. As for what triggered the movement, the corruption and hostility towards the government contributed to the regulators movement. Also, there are many economic ramifications from the French and Indian War, and North Carolina was struggling economically from the large amount of money they spent on the war. As for what went down, the Regulators' rebellion led to a battle between colonial militia in 1771. The governor at the time, William Tyrone, and his militia disbanded the Regulators' army at the Battle of Almonte's Creek. Sorry if I said that wrong. After this, the conflict diffused, but the tensions were definitely still there. As for my book critique, I believe this book was extremely thorough and accurate as an account of the political and social climate in North Carolina. Eckert does not leave out any historical detail, and he not only provides information about those involved in an event, but he provides background information on the specific person to truly help you understand what was going on in their head and why they may have been doing the things they did. My one critique would be that I would like to see how the corruption affected the family life. I know this is a political book, but this doesn't mean that the corruption in the political climate did not affect the women and children at the time. I'll be interested to know if the children were more misbehaved because of the corruption or lack of structure, or also how stable the common marriage was. All in all, I rate this book very highly. I would definitely recommend this book to someone who's seeking to learn more about the history of North Carolina. I personally believe it's very important for states residents to be educated on the history of their state, no matter how good or bad it is, because it can remind us to be grateful for how far we've come. Thank you.